Hey guys, in this video we're going to create this web landing page in Figma. Now I also want to remind you that I recently launched a new Figma course, so feel free to check it out in the link in the description if you want to level up your game with this specific software. But now without further ado, let's jump into the video. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the frame tool and we're going to click on desktop. So we have 1440 pixels of width. Now let's go ahead and double click on this and we're going to rename the artboard to 1. And we're also going to add the text. So let's start by adding a sample logo, and we're going to change the font to Montserrat, which is a free Google web font, which you can find simply by going on Google and searching for Montserrat and or Montserrat font, and you're going to find it right away. Now let's duplicate this text and we're going to make it smaller in order to create the top level menu. Now let's add the very first element. So the first one is going to be the about, and I'm going to make these center aligned. I'm going to duplicate this a few times by using Shift plus the Option key, and then using Command D in order to duplicate these elements. All right, let's make them just a little bit smaller, and I'm going to right here, features, services, pricing, and we're also going to have a contacts or contact us. And on the right, we're also going to add a login section and a sign up button. All right, so far so good. I'm going to leave here as a reminder. And what we're gonna do before continuing is we're going to create a layout grid. So let's click on plus over here. We're going to change this to columns, and let's add 12 columns, and we're going to add also a bit of a margin. And also I want the gutter to be just a little bit smaller. We're also going to change the color of this grid so that they don't take too much visual emphasis as we are designing. All right, so far so good. Let's center these, and these are going to be centered anyway, so they don't necessarily need to be strictly in line with the grid itself. And over here we're going to refine, of course, this button. So let's make it just a little bit smaller. Let's add a little bit of a roundedness to the borders, and let's change also the color. We're probably going to go with just a little bit of a darker. Yeah, that's gonna be just right. And let's center it. Let's make it just a little bit smaller. And I think we're pretty much set. Let's bring this one here. And there we go. All right, so far so good. And as we start, I think we cannot complain. So let's make this one medium. And let's start adding the primary headline. So this one's going to be I'm just making this one up. Let's center it. Let's use this tool right here. We're going to make the headline bigger. We're going to Direct Revolution, European. Okay, that's about right. And we're going to make it just a little bit higher. Let's try and make it bigger, and that will do. All right, so far so good. I'm going to duplicate one of these guys once again, and I'm going to use some Lipsum text, which I already have entered. As you can see, the text is like gigantic. So I'll need to definitely bring this one down, center it, remove a bunch, and I like it to start with something around these lines, and then going to remove this, and I'm probably going to just increase the font size just a little bit. Maybe let's make this one light and add some more line height in between. All right, this is starting to look pretty interesting. And for some reason I want this to be smaller, so probably going to bring the D below. And I also want this to be longer, so I'm just going to add some library text and all right, so far so good. Now let's increase by using command and selecting the artboard and bringing the artboard down so we can increase the height. And now at this point I'm just going to duplicate this guy that we created just a moment ago, and I'm going to create a bigger version, sort of a primary button right over here. Let's write inside view demo, and we're pretty much set. Maybe let's make these medium so that they stand out just a little bit more. Let's make this button also that smaller, since we don't really need that extra width. All right, so far so good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an entire section where we're going to have a hero video. So let's bring this one over here, and let's increase the corner radius of this element. Now, one more thing I want to have is we're going to actually add a play button. So I'm just going to duplicate this, and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm gonna bring the radius all the way to the highest value in this case, so that we can easily create a ellipse. And now I'm going to use Nucleo icons, which you can download on nucleoicons.com. I think it's the website. Alternatively, you can simply search on Google Nucleo icons. You're going to find the resource right away, and it's essentially an icon management software which I use all the time. I love it. It makes adding icons, as you can see, just a drag and drop away. So it's really easy to add new icons into your projects in a fast and efficient way. All right, so far so good. I'm going to add maybe just a little bit of a drop shadow to differentiate it from the image that we're going to add in just a second. And I'm probably going to change the play button to make it smaller. And now at this point, what we're gonna do is we're going to use the Unsplash plugin in order to add the image. Now let's find some interesting images. Yeah, I wrote find, that's, that's smart. All right. I recently woke up, so bear with me on this one. So let's maybe find an image of a team or something that could be, we want to go with a minimal approach and something which isn't too elaborated, if you wish. So maybe something around these lines, but I feel like this one is a tad too classic. So let's go ahead over here and maybe let's Let's write in something different. Let's write minimal. Let's see what we can find. It's gonna be interesting. So we might want to try a few different images. Probably like the other one most. So let's do one thing. I'm just going to make the background lighter, and going to duplicate this just a few times, so we can essentially try different ideas, try different things in an easy way, and we can essentially see the comparison between one another, trying to find a theme for this, and let's try something dark. And we're going to write team, and let's maybe something in the office. I'm trying to get an idea of what could potentially work well. So this one is interesting, but I want to go with something a bit more minimal. So now this one is a bit too much, and let's try something which is colorful. No. So as you can see, it's just a matter of testing things out, looking for new images, and essentially going from there. Okay, this one is pretty cool. Maybe let's try quickly also the other ones on the side. Probably go with this one. And let's go one step back. And I think we got it. All right, so far so good. So let's so we officially have it. Cool. Now let's move on to the very next section, which is going to be all about the main features. So all right, let's make these guys smaller. We're going to group them all in one single section. All right, so far so good. And now we're going to start adding some text and also some icons. So let's start with the icons, and I'm going to use some of these ones right here. Let's go with the colored ones, and I'm just going to basically grab some images as samples. So let's start with this one. And what we're gonna do is we're going to bring it all the way here. Then we're going to left align this. I'm going to have around 3 lines each. And let's create an element over here. So and let's go ahead and let's create a semi-bold version of this. Let's increase the size. And let's bring this right here. All right. Perfect. So far, so good. Actually, let's make them just a little bit smaller. And what we're gonna do now is we're going to see if they currently would fit in rounds of 3. So I'm going to just make this one smaller, and bring it up just a little bit and decrease the line height in between. Now let's duplicate this guy just 2 times, and we're pretty much set. All right, so far so good. Let's change this one up, and what we're gonna do is we're actually going to just make the text 1 point smaller so that it takes less space, and we're going to reduce the width to also a little bit, so there's going to be less of a collision in between these 3 elements. All right, so far so good. Now what we're gonna do is we're going to essentially select a few more of these icons, and I'm trying to figure out which of these icons are going to look well together. And let's go ahead over here. Probably going to change the first one with this one, as it looks pretty cool. And the second one is going to be this one right here. And let's add some sort of a different colored icon over here. Now let's go with something which is going to be more simple, and let's add one of these. Well, a positive one, it's always appreciated. And what we're gonna do next is we're going to go ahead and add one final icon, which is going to be this one here. Or actually, let's go with this one. All right, so far so good. So let's go ahead over here and let's change these icons, and let's bring them over here, and let's group them. Let's remove the frame on this one as well, and let's essentially change this one up. 1, 2. And let's change also the size of this one right here. We don't want it to enter the other icon's frame. And let's change this one too. All right, so far so good. It's starting to look pretty interesting. I'm probably going to make this green a little bit more visible, and we're pretty much set. Right, pretty happy with these icons. Now let's duplicate all this, and we're going to add the round of icons below. So let's bring this one here, let's frame it. Let's change this one just a bit, and we're going to bring it over here. Let's make it just a tad bigger, and there we go. Let's make this one smaller, and let's center it right here, and let's unframe this one as well, and let's bring it down here. All right, so far so good. Probably just want to make this one a little bit bigger, and we're pretty much set. All right, so this one just a bit smaller, and there we go. So let's add some text. Perfect. All right, we essentially have our basic structure when it comes to the features section. So now let's move on and let's create the section below. So let's go ahead and let's add some sort of a human touch now to this composition. So what we're gonna do is we're going to find a photo and we're going to add some sort of a quote. Okay, just made some blubbery text up, and let's increase this in size. Let's decrease the line height. Let's decrease the weight, and let's just bring this one here. All right, quote. Let's add them here. Let's make this maybe like 20%. Let's make it bigger. And we're going to add some just a full name. And let's go ahead and let's find a image. We're going to use the Unsplash library as always. So this one's going to be person. And let's find maybe like a half, not a portrait, but you know, something around these lines. This would be perfect in this composition. So let's just change the name, and here we go. All right, so far so good. Now let's add some elements about we can find some jobs with this company. And we're also going to change maybe the background just a bit. Let's bring this one down. And here we go. All right, so we're going to change the fill color in order to make it not blue, but some sort of a saturation, which is going to work overall. And that's going to do the job. Let's lock the layer, and let's go over here and let's create a rectangle. All right, so far so good. So let's bring this one over here. Let's make it rounded in the corners, and let's make it white. Now, just for the time being, I'm going to use a stroke, but it's not necessary. Let's duplicate this element. We're going to add both the headquarter probably going to go with an outline, so let's go with this one right here. We're also going to add the modality of work, so it's going to be this text right here. All right, so far so good. Let's change the stroke color to maybe a color around the lines of this blue. By the way, we're also going to make this play button smaller, so let's do that right now. And we're also going to change the color of this guy, of course, so that it's going to be more in line with this composition. So let's find one of the colors of the icons above. And there we go. All right, so let's make this one 2. This one 1.8. Let's make it just a bit smaller. I'm going to write full time. All right, so far so good. Let's bring this one up. And let's add a arrow on the right. This one will do. Let's make it bigger, of course. And we're also going to unframe it directly from here. Let's bring it on the right. And let's add a little bit more of a stroke over here. And there we go. So far, so good. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and let's just select this all, and let's duplicate these a few times. We're going to create a few job postings. And there we go. So basically we can create one duplicate of the bottom above, just below this elements, and we can go and change the text. So this one is going to be view all openings, and let's go ahead over here and let's add the bottom footer. So this is going to be add the footer down below, and this is essentially a rectangle. I'm going to lock it right in. I'm going to add a few elements on the top. So this one is going to be the about section, and we're going to make this one semi-bold, and let's add a little bit of a distance between one letter and the other. And let's make it over here. I'm going to write about, we're going to write services, features, team, and yeah, that will be about it. Now let's go ahead and let's duplicate this. We're going to write something around the lines of portfolio. Let's make this one all caps. Let's write web apps. And here we go. Now let's add another element. It's going to be consultancy. let's add a few more. So I'm literally just making this up in order to fill in some space. So contacts, let's add team members, history, and why us. And let's go ahead and let's also add let's add an emo. We're going to make this one semi-bold and possibly of the same color of the button. All right, so far so good. Let's grab all of these, let's bring them here. And we're also going to add some social icons. So here we go. Let's add a Facebook icon. Maybe let's add this one. Let's add Twitter. We're going to go with LinkedIn. That will do. Pinterest. And we're pretty much set. All right, so let's try and match the width of all these ones. And yeah, that'll do. And let's bring this one here. Maybe let's try and add a few. Not too sure about it. Let's do one thing. Let's just remove the columns for the time being. And I'm also going to maybe change this element right here. Let's give it a try. No, I'm not too sure about it. So, all right. So far, so good. Let's do one thing. And maybe let's make these ones 50% in opacity. And also add some text below. Copyright. And let's make this one italic and light. All right, that'll do. So we're pretty much set with this custom web design. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.